chansonnier music, which was kind of its own category, and harmonium really distinguished themselves by bringing those three things together. You know, Serge Fiori was famous for this sort of beautiful, poetic approach to lyrics, but the band also had this, you know, unlike other members of that kind of movement at the time, they had a much more expansive musical palette of bringing this folk music and this sort of broad prog rock style kind of expansive conceptual approach in, and so that really made them stand apart. And they were kind of a generation that kind of was representing Quebecois culture coming to self-consciousness and maturity and the nationalist movement of the time and expressing itself in the world. And because harmonium's music was so accessible and pretty, it reached beyond Quebec's borders to listeners across English Canada, especially, and then in the US and the rest of the world. And so, you know, on one hand, they were kind of similar to movements elsewhere in the world of bringing traditional music and prog rock together. You know, you think of like Fairport Convention in the UK and bands like that in other countries. And they were also kind of a forerunner of Quebecois culture asserting itself by exporting its culture to the rest of the world. So in that way, they were kind of also like a precedent to Cirque du Soleil. And so they have kind of a monumental status, even though they only existed for like 5 years and put out 3 albums. You know, it's a cultural achievement that everyone recognizes. And Serge died on Saint Jean-Baptiste Day as well, so there's a symbolic weight to that.
So the reason I wanted to start the show there is because I think it's important to sort of recognize when we have had legends and when they have passed on, sort of take a moment to sit with that. There's much more of a tribute to Serge on CBC News, so you can go there and find out. But in the meantime, I want to pivot to a legend that we do have. I'm so grateful that we have him. A delightful sentence that you don't get to say out loud very often. Hey, let's hear some new music from Bruce Springsteen. Albums, which kind of gives you the illusion that like Bruce Springsteen walked into his basement and was like, what are these? That's wild. We should probably put these out because I've never put these out before. Nico, I'm going to start with you on this one. This is a box that spans from 1983 all the way to 2018. The vast majority of it recorded in the 1990s. Where was Bruce in this era? Like, why did he have so much music just kind of stockpiled but not released out to the public?
The 90s are such a funny period for Bruce because, like, he has referred to, like, people saying that that's his lost decade. I mean, he has very few records come out in the 90s. Like, he has two come out at the same time, Human Touch and Lucky Town comes out in 92. He does Streets of Philadelphia in 93, and then Ghost of Tom Joad comes out in 95. And that's kind of it. You know, it's not until The Rising comes out in 2002 that we get anything new from Bruce. So, like, it is this lost period. He's moved to California at this time. Like, he's in Los Angeles, he's having kids, he's having a family, and he's made a lot of music and we just never heard it. So now, it is this interesting thing. Listening through this now, it is interesting to hear where was Bruce in this era that we didn't really hear a lot from him. What did he sound like? What was he doing? What was he trying to do? And how would this have felt if it came out in the years that he recorded them? You know, like, had he put a country record out in 95 when he also did Ghost of Tom Joad, would people have been into it? And it's impossible to know the answer to that question, but now we have 83 tracks through which to wonder, like, what would have happened if Bruce was just throwing spaghetti at the wall his entire life?
I mean, I will say that, like, the idea of, like, having a divorce album come out at the end of the 90s, it's fine to take a decade to be like, let me regroup and only put out 3 albums in these 10 years. Like, to me, there's something sort of beautiful, actually, about the idea that he's like, I'm going to step away for a moment and do some other things. But it turns out that Bruce can't not make music. And then suddenly you kind of get this moment, Vish, where you are not confronted with, but blessed with, shall we say, a gigantic flood of new Bruce Springsteen songs that sort of range in their styles. We have a country sort of style album. We have some orchestral stuff. He's working with a lot of different styles. What's it like sort of waking up and be like, oh my gosh, look at all this, the Bruce bounty?
I think those of us who follow older artists are becoming accustomed to putting out outtake or unreleased material collections. In my memory, and I might be wrong, I can't think of anything like this. I can't think of any artist of his caliber being like, here's 7 complete albums I made that I put out other stuff instead of this. So here you go. So when these collections come out, one thing beyond just marveling at the music that we get to hear, fans have to reckon with what our favorite artists' decision-making processes are, their indecisiveness, their contemplation, like the fact that they really think about these things, like, what am I going to do with this? And this particular set had me thinking, like, what if Bruce and Dylan, like Bob Dylan, by the way, is who I'm referring to there.
I don't know any other ones, but yeah, that's fair.
Joni Mitchell. What if Miles Davis, Neil Young, all these people had Bandcamp or SoundCloud? Can you imagine? Like, these days, everyone's just like, hey everyone, I made a record last week, here you go. These folks sit on these things, and I think it's kind of interesting because we're kind of like, okay, you didn't put this out, it's perfect. And, you know, this is great. I think, you know, the other thing we wrestle with as fans is the stuff that did come out, I don't know if it's as good as this now.
Hey.
So you just are all.
Watch
Just, to
it.
me,
I'm hearing the
I'm just-
rising slander. 100.
请沿道路行驶148公里。
I mean, I love Bruce. I've seen the E Street Band so many times.
Yeah.
But the other, like, I just think it's fascinating that Bruce and some of the other people I mentioned are able to provide us these alternate histories
Mhm.
while they're alive. Like, that's really unusual to have all these people be like, here's what I did, here's what I could have done,
Yeah.
here you go. I mean, I just think, and I mean, this decision making spills into all sorts of aspects of what they do, like lyrical fragments showing up. Like, we know a song like Downbound Train from Born in the USA. We know that song. It shows up here on a different song. Like,
Yeah.
it shows up on the song Black Mountain Ballad. You hear about Joe, I Gotta Go. Decisions, like, just interesting decision making. So, sorry. I just want to say, like, part of this, the joy we feel
Yeah.
is also having to reckon with, like, the like, just how much decision making is done that
Yeah.
maybe doesn't make sense, but it's feelings. It's just like, this is a vibe.
The man will sort of create an album that is like basically perfect and go,
Yeah.
this can maybe wait 30 years. Benson Boone will make an album in 17 days and go like, that seems really good enough. Carl, I want to.
Why did you bring up Benson Boone
I'm
again?
sorry.
I was
I'm
just
sorry.
on-
I know. I'm sorry. It's actually it's Vish's wake word. I'm so sorry to bring that up. Carl, when you look at this box set, what does this box set tell you about what Bruce Springsteen maybe wants us to know about him right now?
I mean, it doesn't tell us anything we don't already know after the last 15 years or more of outtake albums and bonus discs
And Broadway performances, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and we're aware that Bruce like produced work like a MF
Nice.
at all times.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is this project, I think, in the last decade particularly, of really putting the archives in order alongside telling his story and his autobiography, alongside doing the
请沿道路行驶。
side making these documentaries
行驶500米后向左转。
to tell it now in a broader way. You know, when Jason's talking about the choices that were made to put these albums out or not, like, I think a big part of it is that a lot of the projects here didn't suit the story that Bruce wanted to tell about Bruce Springsteen at particular times. They're not the heroic man of the people, masculine Bruce Springsteen at all times. They're kind of the weird artist Bruce Springsteen, like obsessively making stuff in the garage studio, right?
Yeah.
And so at various points he veers away from putting out the orchestral pop album, from putting out the synthesizer album, from putting out the kind of more mainstream country album instead of the like Woody Guthrie-esque country album. So all of those choices I think show up here, and you know, there's a romance to the idea of lost albums, and there's also kind of the like indications of strategy and fears about public perception and all of those kinds of things that are the backside to all of that.
So I just want to because there's so much music to dig into with this. I just want to play Nico. This song stuck out for you. Let's hear Repo Man. Just an artist having a good time. I like that's what this is. I know that you love 10th Avenue Freeze Out, which like a lot of critics are like, what is this song? And it's like, this is Bruce introducing you to his friends. How fun is that? But talk to me about the fact that we got a country album from Bruce a couple of years ago called Western Stars. Perfect record, by the way, perfect pandemic record. But this is like a sort of a big scale country album. Talk to me about hearing Bruce in this mode. What about it stuck out for you?
I mean, I love the energy of Bruce Springsteen yelling at people. Like, Repo Man is like the ultimate form of Bruce Springsteen counting to 4. Like, in the beginning, you know, like the Santa Claus is Coming to Town single, and he just like opens with like a half-drunk uncle like wandering through a house party yelling about like looking for his keys. You know, like I like that spirit of him. And I also just like to think of, you think of country music in the mid-90s and you think of like Alan Jackson's on the charts or whatever, and then imagine Repo Man showing up there and like, well, who's this? Who's yelling at me? Why is he mad? Like, and I love this swaggering Springsteen because it's, you know, so much of this is about identity, right? And like the different versions of Springsteen that he allows the audience to see. So much of him is about allowing people in when he chooses to let them in. And I like when he lets them into his more sort of swaggering persona that is loud and boisterous and is like kicking up dust in a bar you're afraid to go into that has peanuts all over the floor and like some blood that's been there for some time. And it feels really real in this way that is also an act, you know? It is like, we were talking about Tom Waits before we started recording this, and it's kind of Waitsian in its own way of like, this is a performance of a man that isn't real, but I have made him real in order to turn him into a record. And I think that is a really beautiful... love when he allows himself to be a caricature of himself.
What I love about that is that you're like, hey, the grass is green, but you're no, like you're like this big scale Bruce is someone has a lot of fun with.
Again, I want the 10th Avenue Freeze-Out movie. Like, I want a biopic of him making Nebraska. I want a biopic of him meeting Steve Van Sant.
I completely agree with you. Okay, I want to play another song. Let's hear Blood Sponge. Okay, so this last album is called The Streets of Philadelphia Sessions, an entire album that he recorded and shelved around the time that he wrote the song that won an Oscar, The Streets of Philadelphia, from the 1993 movie Philadelphia. Well, I want to ask you about this because I feel like this might be like the most radical departure of the sort of classic Springsteen, the thing we expect. Why do you think this is an important chapter in the way that we think about Springsteen? Because I don't think we fold that into this story.
Yeah, I mean, it goes along the lines that I was saying earlier. It's sort of roots in it. And this is one of the few things on the message I think would change the story a little bit if it had come out. But, you know, he made this one song, everybody loved the song Philadelphia, Dance Oscar. So when he goes into the garage, into the studio, makes a whole album like that, teaches himself to make loops, is listening to like West Coast hip hop because he's in LA at the time. Also listening to like trip hop and other kind of techno music coming out of the UK at the time, and kind of wants to see if he can play around with those textures, and then gets cold feet about it and thinks, you know what, I think I should do. I've made too many like relationship albums. Fans don't really like it when I use synthesizers so much, and so I'm gonna get the E Street Band together and make this greatest hits album that puts more describes on that. And just that this project was on the verge of coming out for the States. It was pretty much done, and it's just shelved. It's really too bad. And you know, it's funny too because you think of people like Bowie who that kind of same phase in the 90s were thinking the same thing, like drawing on Gibson beats and seeing if they could use it to refresh their sound and create a dialogue with younger generations of musicians. And that's part of their story as we understand it. It's not a thing of respond.
I mean, if anything, to me, Rhesus was a little bit anti-territorial, right? The idea of like, we spent a long time saying, this is a story, it's a very tight story, it's a very specific story, you know, it's released, then it was turned, and kind of get this lost albums thing, and if you go back to the spontaneous thing, it's like, you get the inspiration of Springsteen for many things, and it's all been wonderful things, and to maybe allow himself a chance to be that, and now he's maybe allowed himself a chance to be that, maybe last one to you, because we are obviously also going to be the Springsteen movie later this year.
Yeah.
That's the one that Nico just mentioned. How are you feeling about the way that we sort of have a cohesive idea what Springsteen is, and how we're maybe playing around with that idea?
Well, following on A Complete Unknown, which we have
Bob
the
Dylan
Bob Dylan movie that came out, and now we've got a Springsteen thing. So I feel I have issues with biopics generally. I will say that.
Sure.
But I will say that we are encountering older musicians and their camps allowing a youthful interpretation of their careers to be presented, and I think it's twofold. The cynical part of me is like, well, they're trying to reintroduce themselves to a younger audience.
Yeah.
But the other part of it that I think is more inspiring is that, and I think of the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because they have this mandate. It's not just about Bob Dylan, it's to inspire young people to make and do things. So if you look at it through that lens, I think it's this movie. I mean, I know what Nico said about the subject matter, and I appreciate that. However, I do think this is potentially going to inspire young people to be like, oh, this old grizzled rocker, he was young once, actually. I didn't even know that. It didn't even occur to me that he was young and he didn't know himself, and he was searching for something. He's a searcher. I'm searching for something. An artist like Lord, searching for something. Like, I think we are attracted to people who are searching for themselves in public, and that's what I think we are getting with these, again, sort of stereotypical biopics. They're often about that, someone trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
But Bruce is one of the ultimate searchers. He's done so in public. This box set is another kind, like Nico said, he's letting us into his process of trying to find himself.
My name is Alamin Abdul Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Vish Khan is here, Nico Travis is here, Carl Wilson is here. There's a bunch of stuff to talk about, but in the spirit of, taking one look in the mirror and wanting to change your clothes and your hair and your face, let us hear some brand new Lord. Let's hear it. Called Virgin, that is out today. Nico, I'm going to kick it over to you because I feel like we've talked a little bit about the narrative around this album, which is like Lord saying, hey, I have a bunch of questions about who I am as a person, a bunch of questions about my gender identity, a bunch of questions about where I'm headed as an artist, and then you kind of get this album. Would you say that that is actually the defining story of this album? Like, does it hold up when you think of it as a sort of a cohesive question throughout the album?
It's less of a cohesive question, and it is more of a cohesive journey to look for the words to define the question, for answers you don't know you need necessarily. Like, it is very yearning for something while still being, it is this very fun process of questioning identity in a way that is sort of a roundabout, open-ended idea that has no real answer because there's no real resolution to it, but it is this sort of searching for yourself. It is an interesting thing for a pop star in the public eye to do, right? This idea of like, well, I don't really fully know about myself, and specifically I don't know about myself as a woman, and I don't know what my relationship is to it, and I'm working through that, and I'm figuring some stuff out, with the album cover especially, that is like, in my eyes, is a nod to the Sticky Fingers cover with the zipper and the whole 9 yards, this having, an x-ray with an IUD inserted, and like, this idea of like, well, what does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to have this body? What is my relationship to this body? And what does this body do in relationship with other people? It's very still lustful and playful and all of these things, but it is also like, but who am I anymore? And, in that, like, I think it is a very cohesive, put together thing, but I don't think it is done so in service of answering something or having some broader question that it arrives at. I think
a reclamation for me in this album of Lord saying, in solar power, I sort of tried to say I'm someone who can answer questions. And she's returned to be like, no, the thing that I'm better at is asking. And then there's a comfort in the return to that. I want to say thank you to all of you for being here, because we're about to run out of time, so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, y'all. Thanks so much. My name is Alameen Abdul-Mahmoud. This show is called Commotion, and we are going to be back on Monday. We would love to see you then. In the meantime, I'm going to be on the Canada Day show, which is 11 to 2 on Tuesday. Let's see you then. Thanks, guys.
It's 11:30 Pacific Time, 12:30 in the Mountain Time Zone. I'm Sonia LaRouche in Kelowna. This is CBC Radio 1. The CEO of Interior Health, Susan Brown, is stepping down months ahead of her scheduled retirement. This comes as there has been a pediatric crisis at the Kelowna General Hospital and growing calls for her to resign. IH says that Brown will now focus on supporting the organization in its transition in advance of her pending retirement. Meanwhile, the pediatric inpatient unit at KGH remains closed. According to Interior Health, the unit will reopen as soon as possible. Fire investigators in Kamloops say a fast-moving grass fire in the city was human-caused. It started late yesterday afternoon and quickly grew to about 3 hectares before it was brought under control. There was concern because it was burning on a hillside close to Royal Inland Hospital. There was no damage to the hospital or to any other structures. And a look at the BC weather forecast for today. For the north coast, periods of rain with highs of 13 degrees. For the central interior, showers and a risk of lightning this afternoon and a high of 18 degrees. For the Okanagan and southern interior, mainly cloudy with a risk of lightning in the Thompson region this afternoon and a high of 23 degrees.
national anthem is butchered by American singers. Like in the year 2023, an American, instead of the words "from far and wide," sang, "We stand our eyes." Stand eyes? Did he mean standardized? Like standardized healthcare? Is that what he was trying to say? Anyway, it's time for a debate we can all stand up and be proud of. So, whereas it has a distinct and memorable melody, evokes patriotism in 2 languages, and is receptive to change, be it resolved that Canada's is the best national anthem. John, you arguing for this, please, my friend. You have 2 minutes, starting now. John Steinberg.
Things are instantly better when you put an O in front of them. Oh, Henry is a delicious, chewy chocolate bar. But Henry is just some guy. Now, I know it's not considered a Canadian quality to be super patriotic, but you've got to admit, we have the very best national anthem in the whole world. Now, Allie's gonna say that "Oh Canada" is a terrible song. And sure, I'll give him that. It doesn't have to be a great song to be a great anthem. We don't listen to the anthem because we want to. We listen to the anthem because it is our duty. Whenever I listen, I'm reminded of the sacrifice of all the Canadians who came before me, who had to listen to that same national anthem. You don't want a cool anthem like the Americans have. Jimi Hendrix rocking out to it at Woodstock? Lame. Rock is supposed to be the music of rebellion. National anthems are about standing still. Rocking out to your national anthem is like getting drunk with your parents. You can do it once or twice, but you should feel embarrassed about it afterwards. Thank you.
John Steinberg, ladies and gentlemen, on why Canada's is the best national anthem, in case you've just tuned in and weren't sure what that was about. Now, here, singing a totally different tune about Canada's national anthem, let's welcome Ali Hassan.
Hello, Ottawa. I'm going to ask you to remain seated as the theater plays our national anthem. All right, let's get it right there. First issue, why did you remain seated? Huh? You're proud Canadians. You sat because I asked you to? No, you sat because our anthem is weak. Okay? Secondly, "Oh Canada," who starts a song with O? Was somebody surprised by us? "Oh Canada, what are you doing here?" You know what's a great anthem? The French anthem. Aux hommes citoyens, formez vos bataillons, marchons, marche. I feel like murdering somebody right now. That is amazing. Or the Argentinian anthem. Oremos con gloria morir. I learned Spanish for this debate, by the way. That was a massive waste of time. Or the Pakistani anthem. There's 5 official languages. One of them is Kosa. Kosa. The one with the clicking. If the one with the clicking is one of the languages, that one. You want to impress me? You write me a Canadian anthem with words in English, French, Punjabi, Tagalog, Cree, Ojibwe, and Inuktitut. Thank you. All right, Ali and Son, pretty good points. It's time now for the bare knuckle round. We're debating Canada's national anthem, so for better or worse, all of us command that you hit your opponents with some real singers. The audience decides which of you they true patriot love, and which of you they can't stand them. Time for
前方100米处向左转，然后向右前方转。
now.
现在向左转，然后向右前
然
方转。
后向左转。